All right. Season 11 mid-season patch. Tanks Giga buffed. Let's go see which ones are OP and which characters got nerfed. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. As always, we're gonna watch Karq's video. So if you haven't subbed to Karq, go do it. Very great guides and update vids.
Mid-season 11 is here only 2.5 weeks after the season launch, which is incredibly fast, but that's likely due
because Pharah OP, terrible tank comps that nobody wanted to play. Yeah, they needed to do something ASAP Rocky because the player base was dwindling. So we'll see if this one is any better.
to their Transformers collab release date, which was locked in for today, July 9th, and we have Megatron Ramatra, Optimus Prime Reinhardt, RC Alari, and Bumblebee Bastion. The skins actually look really sick, but yeah, we have to focus on the balance patch, and it's a little question.
Honestly, I think Optimus Prime, the Reinhardt one, was pretty sick. Alari one doesn't make too much sense, but I guess it's still cool to have one. Bumblebee Bastion, thumbs up. Then Megatron Ramatra looked all right.
Questionable. I call this patch the Rise of the Tank Titans, and
true.
You'll just have to see. Let's go. Armor is changing, where the flat damage reduction is going to be increased from 5 to 10 per projectile. The devs comment that the armor changes have had a positive impact on which heroes and damage types are slowed down by armor health. We're increasing the damage reduction on it to further widen the pool of heroes that are significantly affected by armor's defense. This is a very significant buff to armor, and it will nerf the damage of some heroes by a lot, with the biggest losers being Roadhog, Bastion, Echo, Genji, Soldier, Baptiste, and Lucio. If your hero main was called out, report to the principal's office. Here's a graph plotting the raw damage versus effective damage from the different patches, along with an entire spreadsheet, both linked in the description. Say thank you, Cactus Puppy, for putting this together for the community. Okay, the tank roll.
Oh, there's... I mean, I get it's cool to have a spreadsheet, but is anybody actually gonna? Does anybody ever look at spreadsheets? There's no way that somebody's looking at, okay, I'm gonna play Lucio because I'm doing 5.2% more damage to this target. Okay, this target has armor, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit like Ramatra because I'm doing 5. Like, dude, like it's cool for sure, but there's no way that the spreadsheet damage and stuff like that is going to affect any sort of gameplay whatsoever, right? People are going to pick their hero. We're not going to do it because of that. Yeah, but I mean, it's still cool nonetheless, so nice for that guy for doing it.
Passive is also going to get a change. The ultimate generation is going to be reduced from 30 to 40.
But having the armor thing actually helps tanks a lot, and they're buffing tanks even more. So I mean, they have to do something to get people to want to play tank, right? Like, unfortunately, tank is just, they took away our tank duos, so nobody wanted to play it because of that. You get blamed for everything. If you have an off game, you're pretty much done for because nobody to pick up your slack. So they have to like do something to actually make people want to play tank. So I mean, if tank is like super strong, then that makes it more fun for tank players, so then more people actually play tank, you know? So I mean, it's not like super opposed to it, just depends on like how bad, I guess, how OP they're going to be.
40%, but the knockback resistance will be reduced from 50 to 40%. The devs comment that dealing damage to tank heroes will be slightly less rewarding with the increased reduction to the ult generation, and will help balance out the increased healing they may receive with the change to the damage roll passive in this patch. While the knockback resistance was generally useful for tank heroes and their emphasis on positioning, it was also reaching a point where it was difficult for players to tell if knockback abilities were even having any effect on them. For D.Va, the defense matrix max duration is going to be increased from 3 to 3.5 seconds.
Okay, that's huge.
Micro missile explosion damage is going to be increased from 4 to 5.5
the big D.Va buff,
which translates from 126 damage to 153 damage from the micro missiles if everything hits. Devs comment, the max duration of defense matrix is increased by half a second by reducing the rate at which the resource meter drains when in use, so it won't take longer to regenerate. The increased damage on micro missiles will help the ability feel relatively more impactful against larger health pools.
Okay.
For Doomfist, the best defense, that's the name of his passive, the overhealth gained per target is going to be increased from 35 to 40
More
HP,
Doom buffs!
and the delay before overhealth begins to drain will be increased from 1 to 3 seconds. The devs comment that most of Doomfist's
Doomfist buffs
is through his excellent mobility, but this boost to his passive overhealth generation will enable him to stay in the fight longer before disengaging, especially when hitting multiple targets with his ability. For Junker Queen's commanding shout,
okay, Junker Queen doesn't need buff.
Is going to be increased from 150 to 175
Huge.
HP, and the Adrenaline Rush passive wound damage self-healing multiplier is going to be increased from 2 to 2.5x.
Okay, this is kind of insane because this is for all abilities? So when you melee somebody with the axe, when you boomerang someone, yeah, okay, that's actually pretty big for JQ then. It's a huge sustained buff. So, okay, I kind of like that. Kind of like that. JQ definitely needs some help. Yeah, okay. Not opposed to that.
The devs comment that Junker Queen is relatively small and fast for a tank hero, so commanding shout doesn't need a ton of bonus health to be effective. The increased wound healing better rewards her for managing her abilities well. For Malg,
see, like, that is how I think all the tanks should be balanced, right? Oh, if you're good at doing like a melee, hitting a knife, right? Doing your axe on separate people, so then you're getting all that like health, like it promotes good gameplay. Like that's like a good example of like actually making a character good for being good at it and like buffing the right abilities, right? It's not just like, oh, here's 5,000 shield because you can't walk forward, you know, you can't use cover, right? Like that doesn't solve anything, right? But that actually, if you're good, then it actually benefits you. If you suck, then it doesn't help you at all, right? It's just but the people that are good, then it actually is a buff.
The cardiac overdrive duration is actually going to be nerfed from 5 to 3 seconds.
It's a lot.
But the lifesteal is going to be increased from 60 to 100%. The damage reduction is going to be increased from 30 to 40%. But again, allies now only receive half of the lifesteal and damage reduction effect value. So
100%. 100%. What, dude? You know how much damage Malga does? 100% lifesteal? Dude, you are never dying when you press it. I mean, okay, granted, you only have like half the time. So you can DM all of it. You can Sigma eat, right? So it's like against like Hog, like Zarya, whatever. Like if you can like, you can probably do really well against those heroes, but the heroes that can just eat all your damage, and that actually is a huge nerf to them. So Diva got a pretty good buff into Malga because you can just DM it. But yeah, that's actually, I would say that's probably a buff to Malga, because usually Overwatch fights are done within like 5 seconds. So you being able to get like a second life just by pressing that and like shooting a target for lifesteal is pretty insane.
50% lifesteal and 20% damage reduction respectively. For Overrun, the knockback damage is going to be increased from 25 to 30, and the stomp damage is going to be increased from 60 to 75, which means the critical stomp is going to be going from 120 to 150. The devs comment that Cardiac Overdrive is Malga's primary tank.
You can just one-shot it.
Keeps him in the fight. But the previous duration was difficult to counter. It's now more a potent effect with a shorter duration to increase the importance of choosing both the right moment to use it as Malga and when to try to mitigate against it as an enemy. Orissa's fortified duration will be increased from 3.5 to 4 seconds. Yeah, that's it. The devs comment that Fortify and Javelin spin abilities were weakened further.
I mean, I think that Orisa is probably one of the weaker tanks, so this is not going to really bring her up on the list of great tanks, since nothing else was really changed. Fortify, yeah, it's longer, but I mean, I still think Orisa's probably the weakest tank out of all the tanks now so far.
Further than necessary when Orisa was overly dominant. She has not been performing well since then, but in this patch where we're broadly adjusting how tanky or impactful the role is, there is room again to return to some of Fortify's effectiveness. Ramatra's Nemesis form, bonus armor is going to be increased from 225 to 300.
Okay, that is insane, because they did the armor buffs just now with taking less damage. So now they're giving him 75. Okay, I mean, shit, I'll take it. Let's go.
And the pummel damage is going to be increased from 60 to 65.
Matcha, rise up.
Comment that the pummel damage adjustment is notable as it reduces the number of punches required to knock out a 250 HP hero. Reinhardt.
Yeah, 825 health, Ramacha. Now he's actually Megatron. Going in, man. Okay. Oh, wait, hold up. Reinhardt buffs now. See, okay, Ram, if Ram's strong, that's like a direct counter to Reinhardt. So I guess we'll see what the Reinhardt buffs are. Yeah, 200x extra health on the shield. Bro, the creator patch, Fire Strike, gives you speed boost. That's all Reinhardt literally needs, man. Speed boost on Fire Strike kit. Promotes good gameplay, solves Reinhardt's getting in problem, but they do shield, which helps nothing.
Barrier field max health is going to be increased from 1400 to 1600.
It doesn't change his big problems.
Is going to be increased from 140 to 160 health per second. The charge wall impact damage
I like
is going to be
this.
increased from 275 to 300 as
yeah, because now you can one hit what Reaper, Torb, Bastion, May, all those. I think this is a good change for Ryan. Like, this actually is the biggest buff. The barrier doesn't really do much. Like, if you're wasting your shield, an extra 200 is not going to help. The barrier regen, that helps a little bit, because now you can just like play a corner, recharge it to go back in faster. So that's a decent buff to Ryan, but I mean, the shield health is negligible, I think.
As well. The devs comment that one of the core design goals for Reinhardt is to be the hero that shields the team. In the past, we've reduced the barrier health significantly in order to improve other offensive aspects of his kit to better fit the fast-paced gameplay of Overwatch 2, but perhaps it was too much. We still want to avoid barriers feeling mandatory due to how useful they can be and keep tank diversity at a healthy
Give him the
level.
speed boost, man.
However, with this patch, looking at the tank role in particular, we're increasing Ryan's barrier health again, and we'll evaluate further. Roadhog's Pigpen area damage after activating will be increased from 30 to 45 DPS.
That's a lot of...
The recovery time is going to be reduced from 0.55 to 0.4, so the time before
Huge
it snaps.
buff. What?
The cooldown of it will also begin immediately when used instead of after a short delay. Devs comment that Pigpen wasn't very useful
Hog was already
outside of it being
OP.
used in the chain hook combo, so we're increasing its potential threat.
Yeah, this is Karq. Yeah, Karq literally makes like the best like patch videos instead of just like looking at a spreadsheet. At least we could look at all the things with a little video clip of it. So yeah, shout out to Karq for this.
If an enemy stays within its area, which translates it from 80 to 120 total damage.
Wait, hold up, there was nobody talking. I got you though. Sigma Rock, 120 damage. Yeah, we take those. More yep rocks in the chat. Yeah, Sigma Bus, dude, we're already launching rocks across the map, hitting people. Now we can potentially one hit somebody. Let's freaking go. Yes, sir.
Component. We won't get into it. The devs comment that Sigma is a tank that does not currently have an issue with survivability.
Yeah, I think
when
Sigma's
cycling between managing his
well-rounded
kinetic grasp and weapon range. We are, however, increasing the damage of accretion to bring back more of the threat it used to pose and increase the satisfaction in landing it, as it also did not benefit from the global increase to projectile sizes.
Got it.
Winston, the Primal Rage max health gained is going to be increased from 500 to 700. For Tesla Cannon, the secondary fire charge time is going to be reduced from 1 second to 0.85 seconds.
Okay, that's... Okay, so the Primal buff, it doesn't really change too much, because if you're trying to Primal like a Brig on or something, and they heal each other, having an extra 200 health doesn't really change the Primal not being able to kill somebody. So I think the Primal buff is nice to have extra health. I'm not going to complain about it, but it definitely is not going to like make or break anything. You're not going to be able to do more. But the charge rates, now you can snipe faster. So I think it, I don't know. I thought Winston was pretty like well-rounded with his whole kit. It was just Primal maybe needing a little bit more damage. But I mean, shooting faster with the right clicks, you can build Primal faster. Will let you, you know, engage faster. So I mean, overall, like, this is, I guess, a tiny DPS buff.
The devs comment that Winston is one of the top performing tanks at the moment, though when considering how satisfying the individual abilities within its kit are, the Tesla Cannon's secondary fire felt underwhelming for how long it took to charge, so it'll now be a lot more fluid. We also still want to make Primal Rage mode Winston be killable, but adding some health to it will avoid some of the extreme situations where it could happen too quickly. Wrecking Ball's adaptive shields. The allied overhealth transfer ratio is going to be increased by 50%. So for example, huge. A normal transfer of 75 overhealth will now be increased by 50% on this patch, which gives it 112.5 HP.
Okay.
Quad Cannon's automatic reload time when you're transformed to ball form will be reduced from 2 to 1.6
That's also
seconds.
massive.
Devs comment that Wrecking Ball has excellent mobility and survivability.
Wow, it's a big Wrecking Ball buff.
Efficient in transferring some of that survivability to his teammates, should he choose to return to them. We're also making the automatic reload in ball form match his manual reload timing for a smoother transition between them. The last tank receiving buffs, Zarya. Particle Barrier and Projected Barrier both have their health increased from 200 to 225, and the duration of each is going to be increased from 2 to 2.5 seconds. The devs comment that increasing the health on these barriers also means the total energy Zarya can gain per bubble is increased. So this is a boost to both her offensive and defensive capabilities. Onto the DPS.
Bro, with it lasting forever, because now it's like, oh, let's just not shoot Zarya bubble. Now now she has one for even longer. Oh my god. Yeah, Reinhardt got pinned to 300 damage, so that can kill like Reaper and all those characters now. So it was a good Reinhardt buff. I think the Zarya, that's actually a pretty decent Zarya buff. Is it as good as like Mauga or something? You know, I don't think so. But I think, like, so far with all the tank buffs, right, Overwatch is now going to be a lot more on countering each of the tanks, because now, like, they all are really strong against, like, certain characters, right? So, like, Reinhardt, you can play against, like, probably, like, Zarya, and if you get a pin, like, you're pretty much almost one-shotting somebody now. So that's pretty massive. But then, like, you know, you got to swap, the other person can just swap ramp to now counter Ryan with those buffs. And then you can go, you know, Hog, Mauga, Sig. Like, I think it's going to be a lot more useful to counterpick people, even more than it was before, now that all these tanks got buffs in certain aspects. So you actually do need to counter them, because if you're playing at a disadvantage, then you're kind of just toast. Like, I'm trying to kill a Mauga that's farming his overdrive with 100% lifesteal on a Hog. Like, dude, good luck killing that guy.
Heroes, the DPS passive.
Because before, I would say Hog still had pretty good kill potential against Mauga, right? Like, a good Hog player would still be able to own you, but now I think you can probably get your health up pretty fast.
Is going to be
love Counterwatch, but that's also how Overwatch is meant to be played, right? You can swap heroes for a reason. So honestly, if you can't play all the heroes, just learn the heroes, man. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it sucks when you get countered, but bro, just counter them back. Like, learn more heroes. Don't one trick. Yeah, get pissed at me if you want, man. Like, I don't know. Dude, just learn to play every hero. F it.
Nerfed against tanks, specifically from 20% to 10% healing
Not my problem.
reduction. The other support and DPS heroes do receive the normal 20% healing reduction. The devs comment that with tank heroes being the front lines, they have this healing reduction effect nearly all the time, and are generally the most reliant on incoming healing to support them as well. The damage roll passive is providing an important function to the game overall, but its effects on tanks and survivability and pace of the gameplay is more impactful relative to the other roles. As such, we are reducing its potency against tank heroes.
Nice.
For Ashe, or Bob rather, Bob now gets the tank roll passive ability.
What?
So that means he takes 25% less damage to the head, is a bit more resistant to knockbacks, and will have the DPS passive half as effective against him.
Damn.
For Cassidy's primary fire of his Peacekeeper.
Okay, yo, Bob's a tank. that's okay. Bob's actually a lot harder. So now, because before you were just like, hey, let's melt Bob, but with that, it actually probably prioritizes having like getting a sleep or something off. So I mean, it makes it. I mean, Bob was a little too squishy and didn't really feel like that good of an ultimate in most cases. So that's a massive buff to Ashe. Yeah, this Cass primary fall off damage. I just did at the training range 'cause usually I warm up on Cass, and that was pretty insane for this fall off damage. So I think Ashe with the Bob buff is now also going to be a really good DPS, like probably moves higher than Cass. Before, like last patch, I'd say Cass was like S tier. So I think maybe Ashe is moving up into that, because now you're going to have to probably use Ashe to counter Pharah and stuff, because Pharah was so oppressive. And Cass doesn't do that as well anymore with this fall off nerf. So I mean, I guess we'll see how it happens, but I think Ashe is probably going to move up on the list of top performing DPSs.
The
or needed ones.
range is going to be nerfed from 25 to 35 meters to 20 to 30 meters, and that means the damage will start scaling down at closer ranges. That's a pretty big nerf. Devs comment that with his current tuning, Cassidy is performing too well in too many aspects between his range, his burst damage, and survivability, leading him to be a dominant choice among the damage heroes by an overwhelming amount. The gameplay goal for Cass is to be the sturdier, close-range hit scan who is more proficient at dealing with high-mobility flankers. With this in mind, we're pulling back the effective fall-off range of his weapon to help him align with those gameplay goals and to open up more hero variety from the damage roll.
See, like even with like them doing this to Cass, right? They're making it so it's like, oh, if you pick Tracer, then Cass is still going to be effective against you. But now instead of Cass being good against like Sojourn, Widow, Ashe and stuff like that, now Cass is not good. So now it's like DPS are now getting forced to play like to counter pick as well. So I mean, I think that's still fine, like having certain heroes be really good against certain ones, and then oh, you pick a different one, now I'm not good against that, okay, now I have to pick the other one. So I mean, like even now the DPS role is looking like that, because before I would say only tanks would literally get counter picked and you only had to worry about that. No other role needed to counterpick each other. But, you know, if they start doing this with other things, I think it's, yeah, just learn more heroes.
For Pharah, the concussive blast explosion damage is going to be reduced from 30 to 0.
Perfect. Okay, thank God, man. We've been asking for this forever. There's no reason that Pharah Concuss should do damage unless you just one-shot things. So thank you to the dev team for taking away the damage. Yeah, good.
Explosion knockback radius is going to be increased.
So it's just back to normal.
Meters, and then knockback itself is going to be increased by another 11%. The devs comment that this is actually a reversion back to Pharah's concussive blast from before her recent rework. Dealing even a small amount of damage with this ability increases her lethality significantly. It made it too reliable in finishing off low health targets due to its wide area and fast projectile speed without waiting for the full recovery to fire another rocket. For Ana, the sleep dart...
Yeah, so, I mean, I think that's good. I mean, Pharah still gets buffed because Cass got nerfed. And Cass was like a pretty big, like, be able to just two-tap her out of the sky. But now with Pharah being so far away, I think now you're probably going to have to rely on like a Widow or an Ashe probably to deal with that. So yeah, Pharmacy probably still really strong because of the Cassidy nerf. So we'll have to see how, you know, how that plays into it. Okay, Ana, let's see.
Duration on tank heroes, who would have guessed, is going to be decreased from 3.5 to 3 seconds. The devs comment, rather small change here, but we'd like to minimize the amount of time tanks can be taken out of the fight, and they are also the easiest targets
buffs
to hit
overall
with
everywhere.
Sleep Dart.
Wow.
For Illari, the healing pylon, not really a gameplay change, but I'll include it here. It says, allies no longer see the destroyed UI when healing pylon breaks. The devs comment that the Illari will still see this UI alert, but allies generally don't need to, as it could occur fairly often and be distracting.
Okay,
for
fair
Zenyatta,
enough.
the final change of the patch, Transcendence, small buff where the ultimate cost is going to be decreased by 10%.
Buffs.
The devs comment that we're reducing the cost of Transcendence as Zenyatta, who was impacted more than most by some of the changes in this patch. And I think they're hinting at the armor change, which is true. That's it for the balance portion of the patch. There is an audio update where they actually adjusted the volume and audio cues when shooting enemies with white base health, shield health, armor, or over health.
I mean, that sounds cool. Am I gonna actually notice the difference? I mean, probably not, but I do like that. Like them adding different things, like, you know, it just makes the sounds just a little bit different. You know, it is a nice change. You know, maybe it's just, yeah. I don't hate that. No, there wasn't a difference now, but now they just made a difference. It was pretty cool. Okay. Ooh. Okay, summer games.
Back, you have Lucio Ball, Winston's Beach Volleyball. Play to earn the new sprays, player icons, and some challenges from now until July 29th. The lifeguard skins and the mythic weapon skins come into the shop later on in the season, July 30th and July 23rd, respectively.
Dude, Reinhardt's Transformer Optimus Prime, and now you can have a little mythic weapon with it too? Oh, dude, it's like, you know, you're in the movies where now Optimus is getting some bomb-ass sword.
And finally, there's Twitch drops. Come to twitch.tv/CarQ and
watch
for 3
Twitch
hours
drops.
to earn the Symmetra Pose Spray, 6 hours for the cute Symmetra icon, and 10 hours for the legendary art.
Nobody wants Symmetra stuff. Sorry, man. Yo, let's get some good skins and drops going, man. Who the heck is playing Symmetra or wants this?
Deco Symmetra
But
skin.
drops nonetheless. Amazing. So, yep. Okay. Nice. Buffs, if you're a tank player, everyone else probably raging, and you know, that's okay. You know, everyone can get mad, but they can go ahead and try tank if they want, and they'll realize that playing tank is not fun, enjoyable whatsoever. So if this makes it just that little bit better as a tank player, then, you know, maybe everyone won't leave and you'll have better tank players in your games. Yeah, all right, that's all the buffs changes for season 11 mid-season patch. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to YouTube's if you haven't already, and until next video, peace.